Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is November the 17th, 2017. Buy and hold, strong hand, golden hold, all my sayings. All right. So yeah, it's been an exciting week, right? I mean, we had a Bcash pump, a Bitcoin dump, a Bitcoin pump, a Bcash dump, 2x is dead again, all of that. So we got BTC Benny here, we got Crypto Demedici, and we've got Juan Galt. They are all returning, and they've been on the show before. You know them all from their various wildness. Their links are below. Always check out the link section below. And yeah, you can get t-shirts, cryptography, and Trezors at cryptohwwallet.com. So let's start this off with Juan Galt and I have been planning this for a while, and we were going to talk about 2x, and then there was no 2x, and then there was almost a 2x, and then it just it imploded finally today. Last time we checked, it was just like totally stalled. Juan Galt, what do you think's going on with 2x? What's your opinion? And what were you going to say originally 2 weeks ago about 2x and the whole situation?
Well, I was going to be monitoring the situation to see what happened, but the turn of events that has happened has been just like the drama. I'm still processing it, and I think that the whole community seems to be in a bit of a shock. I think like we're kind of getting over it. I don't know, but I mean, it's amazing. You know, there's this paste bin going around right around the original Bitcoin Cash fork, and the paste bin was like a conspiracy theory saying like, hey, I've got an insider information, totally anonymous, saying that the B2X fork was going to be canceled, and then what was going to happen next was going to be a massive pump of Bitcoin Cash, and then the miners were going to go to Bitcoin Cash, and they're going to try to become the real Bitcoin and try to make like a brand play, right, to become the real Bitcoin, right? And that's exactly what happened, and that's you know, it's a little bit disturbing because you know maybe it just happened to happen that's what happened. You know, maybe it was a coincidence, right? But it also kind of just, it kind of sounds like it was like a planned out, you know, and there was, okay, so there's plans, people plan things. Okay, that might be okay. But I mean, I found it, I think it's frustrating. And you have a lot of anarchists, like a lot of high level anarchists, right? Sort of going all the way with Bitcoin Cash. You have Falk Vince, Jeff Berwick, Roger Ver. Voorhees is sort of kind of neutral, and he's sort of, you know, he's not a Maximilianist. You have Kim.com sort of tweeting positive things about it, and yet the coin is kind of not going anywhere, right? And so, at least on the price front, Bitcoin is stronger than ever again. I mean, it just pumped again. We'll see if it holds. But you know, I think that for now, the forecast happened. People have taken sides, and Core has survived a very, as any other sort of tricks up their sleeve. But you know, I think the argument for Core is very straightforward. You know, if you scale on chain, you're on a gradual path towards sacrificing the principles that make Bitcoin great. You know, censorship resistance, as far as like making it possible for hobbyists to verify the consensus rules. That's really, really important, because then you can, like, the bigger the nodes, the more they centralize, the easier it is for governments and other hostile parties to take over the network. And I think we can expect in the next sort of 5-10 years or something for governments to simply just start attacking smaller chains and just taking them over, right? And so security is a really like legitimate sort of value of Bitcoin. It has to be secure. And you know, so I think Bitcoin Core has very much the better scaling argument. And I think Bitcoin Cash, you know, they might do some interesting experiments, but I'm not putting a lot of money in it, and I'm not really, you know, I don't really see a good outlook for it long term.
BTC Benny, what do you think about what Juan just said, that maybe 2x was just a front for Bcash? But what do you think about 2x falling apart today too? Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, so there's so many things going on, and it just seems like there's never a dull moment. But it was almost, I mean, it reaffirmed my beliefs that Bitcoin is going to be almost like the reserve currency of the crypto space. And there will be many times that stuff like this happens where people try and take over the name. But I honestly think that if it ever happened, or if it was ever possible that it could happen, it would not only shake confidence in Bitcoin, but it would shake confidence in the entire crypto space. Because if it's possible to dethrone what would be a, I guess, reserve currency for crypto, then is it always going to be this perpetual battle for flavor of the week? So I'm glad to see that things like this are falling apart, just because it shows the resiliency of Bitcoin itself. You know, I mean, the 2x code, like it was a ghost town, right? Nobody was making commits. And I saw something online. There was zero review on some of this stuff, and it just, I mean, it makes the case for Core, them being so conservative whenever they put out a new release, right? You can't just throw this shit together overnight and expect it to go off without a hitch. And I mean, you know, Ethereum's got its own use case when it comes to move fast and break things. You know, they're trying to do quick innovation. But if you want a solid store of value, then Bitcoin it is.
So yeah, the 2x code, it blew up today. It totally stalled out today, and everyone's pointing it out over social media and saying, you know, thank God this didn't happen. So it's quite a sight to see. Hey, we're happy, I guess. Hey, pound that like button, people, if you're happy right now. Crypto Demedici, I butchered your name. What do you think about the situation? 2x thoughts? You pleased it didn't happen? What were you thinking going into it, and what are you thinking now that it's proven to be it would have been a mess?
Well, I mean, it seems like it was made to fail from the beginning. The fact that it was just Jeff kind of doing the whole coding part, and also the exploit that was just occurred this morning. It just seems like it was going to be Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and there was actually never going to be a 2x. Now, many people probably thought that there was going to be 2x, especially those kind of in charge of the whole fiasco. But I think those with real power probably already knew that it was just not going to happen. Because really, I mean, the only reason 2x would have happened was if miners kind of stuck to their word. And if a couple backed out at the last minute, then it just, you know, it was going to cease to exist. And I think that's kind of, I mean, what did happen. And I think that it was kind of planned all along. But yeah, I'm glad that 2x is not around, because that's just more competition for Bitcoin, and also would hurt alts a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. It's the coast is clear now. I guess we can move on. I think I muted Juan by accident there. Juan, can you unmute yourself or see? I might have messed something up. Okay, cool. Oh, okay, you're good. Can
you hear me now?
Oh yeah, baby, it's great.
Awesome.
Okay, since we're talking corporate here, real quick, I wanted to, and I got Medici here. Tell us about your thoughts about this Coinbase situation. A lot of people think the reason that Bitcoin pumped and recovered is because of an announcement that Coinbase made. Medici? Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so you think, Bitcoin pumped because what?
Well, there's been added to that. Since I had you talking there for a second, I wanted to ask you about what you thought about the institutional investment Coinbase did.
Yeah, I think it's great, because I think what's helped the Bitcoin pump recently, I think probably since 1,000 to 2,000, when some big guys really started talking about how they've bought Bitcoin and have been buying Bitcoin. They probably already had hedge funds come up and talk to them and let them know that this was a business situation, and that they needed someone to be kind of the custodial for them. and now people are buying even more and more, as we noticed, a couple of days ago, that some people bought the Bitcoin dip, between 15 and $20 million, one hedge fund. So I think they're already looking for a place to store their Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, and Coinbase just kind of took advantage of that situation. I think it's great. It means that I think the bull market is just starting. I can't really imagine where we're going to go, but it seems like the media attention is just beginning, and hedge funds are really just starting to kind of pour in money, and they don't really care about the price per se. They care more about the fact that it's only 21 million Bitcoin, and that's, we've never seen something like this ever, in the sense that there's a cap, and in the sense that people have given it value. So it's really difficult to see where we're going to head, but we're definitely going to head upwards. And I think the bull run is really just beginning.
Yeah, this is like one of the first trickles of institutional money flowing in, and so I think that did help pump the price. It's just speculation. This is a talk show and everything, so we're gonna elaborate on like rumors like that here, I guess. And one other thing, in what you are into the trading side of things at times. What's the feel with Bcash? You off air, you were mentioning the day of the pump. It was quite insane to watch.
Oh yeah, the volume was insane. The price movements were insane. The sentiment was really what got me. Most people that were supporting Bitcoin were quiet, and also this pump just kind of came out of nowhere. People were, Tone Vase is a really big proponent of kind of that community, and he was saying that Bcash was going to keep going down. So it just caught everyone out of surprise, and it was kind of the perfect recipe for that massive fear of missing out that was created. It was a great opportunity. It worked out well, and I think it's going to continue to be around. And people want to make money. They shouldn't get that emotional, but they shouldn't also freak out that Bitcoin has a competitor, because Bitcoin is strong, Bitcoin is powerful, it's going to continue to grow, and regardless if Bitcoin Cash is going to be around or not, Bitcoin's going to stay.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we discussed off the air, and I'd like to hear, Benny wasn't here when we were talking about it, just how the sentiment can change so fast among certain people, I guess. All of a sudden that day, people were saying, yeah, it's the flippening, it's the end of the world for Bitcoin. It is that, and all of a sudden you had all these Bcash people come out of nowhere, and it actually made people's hands weak. The some strong hands started to panic. I was getting emails. Benny, were you getting this type of panic feeling too from other people?
Oh, constantly. So I work I work at an over-the-counter Bitcoin brokerage during the day now. And so I'm sitting there and there's people coming in the door going, oh, I heard that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin. And they're trying to sell, and I'm trying to explain the situation to some of these people. And I think, for me, it seemed like that movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, because it seemed like the exact same shit we heard when there was the flippening with Ether. And it was just people freaking out, thinking it's going to be replaced. This is the next thing. So I think a lot of it was probably people that weren't around when that happened, because there's been a lot more interest since then and a lot new entrants into the space. But it was interesting to see, once again, people that experienced the ETH pump and it going to replace Bitcoin, to have them fall for the same thing again with this. I don't know what to say about it. I think, again, people get too emotional, and it wasn't even people that were that new. Like, people that have been around for years were saying it. And I don't know how many more times something like this can happen before those people realize that's just not the case. Or at least if it is ever the case, crypto in general is going to be something completely different from what everybody thinks it is right now.
I didn't know you worked at an over-the-counter place. I'm learning new stuff every day. You've got some interesting insight. Well, what do you think about the Coinbase situation then? About the institutions, about the pour into the space here, and have you noticed an uptick of big players trying to? I don't know what you can say exactly, but
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I'm working for a company called BitNational, and so they have like a ton of Bitcoin ATMs all over the place, and then they do like over-the-counter trades and things like that. And I've just been working with them this week or this year so far, and it's been interesting the difference in the types of people that I've seen walking in the door, because start of the year was more kind of the typical Bitcoin libertarian-minded people walking through, people super techie, maybe some people that are miners. But more and more, I'm seeing people saying, "Oh, I work for this brokerage, or I'm in finance, or I work for an investment firm, or so on and so forth." And they're walking in, they're coming in with their suits, and they're like, "Okay, I put this off way too long. What's going on? Like, this seems legit, like something's happening here." And I'll sit down and I'll explain to them of how Bitcoin works and how it's like a self-policing system, and it gives people choice of their currency, and their minds are just blown. And I think there's just a lot of that happening where people that have been in the space that made these connections years ago, well, those connections are now just being made by a whole new group of people that would have never taken the time to look into this kind of stuff before. And it's exciting to see. And so when I see Coinbase offering, custodial services for institutional investors, I think that's great. I think we're going to see more of it from people companies that have already specialized in the crypto space. Because frankly, like, are you going to trust an institution that has never been involved in crypto to now have to deal with crypto security? Probably not. So, go to the experts that are already there. I think it's good.
Yeah, but you've given some unique insight there from your own. Hey, man, things are going down in Calgary. Hey, everybody, remember, pound that like button. Check out the links below. Subscribe to the channel. I forgot to mention that I also linked to an article that Juan Galt recently wrote. He kind of alluded to some of these anarchists jumping on the Bcash bandwagon for I don't know what reasons, but he wrote about how he's sticking on Bitcoin. Well, Juan Galt, what do you think about the institutions? Do you feel like there's about a lot of money about to pour into Bitcoin here? What have you been hearing?
Yeah, I mean, my sense of the market right now is that if we maintain stable, right? Like there's a good chance I think that we're going to keep trading between like 660, 800, and 7,000 for a little bit. And once this sort of like the emotional sort of shock of Bitcoin Cash becoming the actual, in a sense, B2X fork, and the kind of like social, because I really felt it. Like I live in Ancapistan, and essentially I live like in an anarcho-capitalist community in Acapulco somewhere. There's a big conference and all that. So I've felt it because a lot of the people here, they kind of get, I think there's like a permanent sort of underdog attitude to a lot of anarchists. And so like, it's like almost like psychologically difficult to believe that the good guys are winning, something like that. I mean, I don't know, it's just my opinion, right? But so I've felt it. And so I think that some degree is going to shake out a little bit. But if we do break above maybe 8,000, 9,000, if we break above 10,000 and we hold there, I mean, I think we could be seeing 40,000 next year. I think in a year and a half, we'll see 100,000. Like we're getting to that point where we're just going to go poof, parabolic. And that's going to be really exciting. And if that is the case, I mean, it really doesn't make any sense to spend Bitcoin, which kind of makes Bitcoin Cash and low transaction fees for the sake of currency look kind of silly, because why would you want to spend Bitcoin at all? Like, there's no real reason to spend Bitcoin other than like if you're in a very specific situations in very specific countries. Okay, I get it, right? Maybe there's some scenarios, but like, hold Bitcoin until we get to the moon and then buy yourself a Lambo instead of buying yourself a pizza or some alpaca socks at, 1x the price, right? Like, Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Get $40,000 instead of coffee. Wow, Juan Galt is putting some huge numbers out there, and I know the chat must be loving that thing. People love when people just say huge numbers. You really you played it up to the crowd there, man.
I like what you said about how some anarchists they have that permanent need to root for the underdog regardless of who the underdog is. Because I've seen a little bit of that too. It's like this disbelief that anything that's doing well could possibly be the good one. And it's a little bit like, I don't know. It's like a teenager where the second their parents start using something, it's not cool anymore. Like Facebook, that shit's out. My mom's on it. It seems like the same kind of thing. So now you've got, all of a sudden we have this censorship resistant sound money, and obviously once that gets out, people start to realize it and they become interested. But the people that are so stuck in the thinking of like, oh, I just want to go against the grain, they start to disassociate themselves from what's getting popular, and they want to go for an alternative currency, which that's fine, but that's not going to stop the people that are piling into Bitcoin right now.
Mm-hmm.
Juan, that was really that was an excellent point about the underdogs. I hadn't heard anyone describe Anarchist in that way. It's very interesting that they would think that Bcash is an underdog when there's like a billionaire behind Bcash. Basically, he basically is the first crypto billionaire. I don't need to say who that is, but I mean, I call him King of the Trolls. People like to use his real name, but I don't. But again, yeah, that was really insightful about the Anarchists. And if you're out there, people, sometimes the good guy does win, and you don't necessarily, the underdog isn't always the good guy, and the underdog isn't always the underdog either. They're not. Bcash is no underdog here. Medici, any thoughts on what's just been said, thrown out there?
Yeah, I think the underdog is a great insight, because I mean, that's partly how I bought Bitcoin Cash when it was down lower, because everyone was talking about it. I mean, it just in just when it comes to trade scenarios, you want to find those kind of assets that are looked down upon and that kind of have that underdog sentiment, because when it gets going, humans just naturally love an underdog. And so when they see it starting to kind of go up, and it's fighting it's like David and Goliath. You don't want Goliath to win, because you've been ingrained as a human to want David to win. And so when you see something like Bitcoin Cash, that it's been vilified, whether it's just or not, people are just naturally going to gravitate to it. That doesn't mean that anything bad is going to happen. It just means that that's the human nature in us. And so, whether you want to exploit that for your own personal gain or not, that's up to you.
Yeah. And so I'm sure some people noticed, but you said you buying Bcash. I can't believe people actually buy it. I jumped up. But I know people buy it. And I think you get it for free. I don't know why you buy it. But after what just happened, there are going to be more people that'll consider buying it, because they're like, well, it could go up to 0.3 Bitcoin again. It could go to 1,500 again. So, I mean, that pump, it served a purpose. Whoever paid for it, whoever manipulated it, it was money well spent. So this is going to happen again. This type of pump is going to happen again. And that's what I wanted to ask Benny about real quick, and then we'll stop talking about this. What do you think is going to happen the next time? Because you said people, like, their memories are so short, they can't remember when the same thing happened with Ethereum, when there was going to be a flippening with Ethereum. And it's just like, this is new to them, but it shouldn't be new because we've already been through it. So when they do pump again, because they will pump it again, it's going to happen again. Unless maybe you don't think it's going to happen again, Benny. But if it does happen again, what do you think is going to happen? And do you think it is going to happen again?
Are you talking about specifically Bcash?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I think it'll have pumps. I don't know that it'll have a pump as high as it just did, because it got about as high as the Ether pump did. And I'm not talking in dollars, because that's irrelevant. What I'm talking about is value in Bitcoin. Because in the crypto space, that's how you have to value things, right? Like, if I could have more Bitcoin, then who cares? So, well, that's my position anyway. So,
Yeah.
you know, like when I'm positioning myself in any other coin, which is not very often, it's because maybe I think I can eventually cash out and get more Bitcoin. And so that's my store of wealth when it comes to crypto. Do I think it's going to happen again? Yeah, just not as extreme. If it does, then I'm going to use the examples that were set in the past by Ethereum and this Bitcoin Cash pump, and do the same thing. Just hold. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Future forks, if they try to pull this again, yeah, like I don't even know if I want to touch some of the forks, just in case they're purposely malicious. You know, like, again, I waited to see what happened with Bitcoin Cash for a little while after it forked to see when I could dump mine to get more Bitcoin. And I mean, it turned out, you know, other than at the very peak of the pump that just happened, it worked out well for me, because I sold my Bitcoin Cash at, I think it was like 0.2. And you know, now it's what, like, it's like 12-13% of a Bitcoin, maybe a little bit more. So I mean, in Bitcoin terms, you know, I sold it, got more Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up 70%, and then everybody's super stoked that Bitcoin Cash was going up, you know, so much. But realistically, in the long run, I was safer just parking it in Bitcoin. So that's my play. Welcome to gamble on whatever they like, I suppose, and they will.
Oh, and they will. It is gambling. And Benny said, he just said one of my sayings, basically, value your wealth in Bitcoin. Strong hand. He said both of them. He said both of them. Hey, Juan Galt, one thing I wanted to ask you specifically about Bcash, which is a good segue into something that a lot of people like when you talk about is Dash. Dash versus Bcash. They're both kind of appealing to the same type of people who want to make small transactions. What's the story over there? What's the story with Dash? And do you think there is a competition between Dash and Bcash on that level?
Yeah, so let me just take a step back a little bit, because I want to mention something that I've been thinking about since the fork, and is I think we saw something like the first sort of crypto collective contract, like with an option thing just happened, right? So basically, Segwit was coming in. People didn't like Segwit. They supported Bitcoin Cash fork, and so we maintained, in a sense, pre-Segwit Bitcoin. And then there was this New York agreement, and they were like, yeah, if we double the block size, then you know, we're gonna have a Bitcoin with an upgraded Bitcoin or whatever. But Bitcoin Core opposed it, and so if Bitcoin Core opposed it and Bitcoin Core won that fork, then now people could essentially say, okay, well, and the miners were supposed to support Segwit 2x, right? And it was because they were supposed to, there's some sort of deal there. You can go back and look at the history of that. And that B2X thing failed. And so now they had an argument for saying, well, the deal was we get Segwit in if we get 2 megabytes later on. This is sort of like the narrative of the New York agreement, even though Bitcoin Core did not agree to that. And so they restored back, the people moved back to Bitcoin Cash. And so that was like the option, right? It was like Bitcoin Cash was like a hedge against this thing, right? And I mean, I think that, you know, I think that things have played out properly in a sense. I think that, you know, there might be some humble pie to eat by Bitcoin Cash, but here's the thing: like there's this guy called Justin Ramvier. He wrote like 4 articles on Liberty.me like a couple of years ago, where he kind of analyzed the crypto economics of Bitcoin and scaling. And his argument was more or less that on-chain scaling creates a tragedy of the commons on the part of the Bitcoin, like the full nodes. People that host full nodes are fronting the costs of verifying the transactions, verifying the integrity of the ledger, and and they have to pay for the bandwidth and the hard drives and the resources, the processing resources and all that stuff. And the bigger that it gets, the bigger the tragedy of the commons. And the people that are benefiting from the tragedy of the commons are people that are getting transactions on chain. And only the miners are getting paid for it. The nodes are not getting paid for it. And that's the economic dynamic that makes me think that Bitcoin Cash is going to sort of tend towards centralization. The thing that makes Dash different than that, and it's one of the main reasons why I like Dash, is because they actually have a on-chain economic sort of reward for people that hold full nodes, right? And so the deal with Bitcoin Cash is you put 1,000 Dash into a collateral address, it's locally sort of secured, and then you get to be a master node, and master nodes get a reward for providing a variety of sort of layer 2 services to the Dash community, like anonymity, like coin mixing, which obviously is criticized by Monero and them, but at least it provides better anonymity than Bitcoin. And then it provides like this instant transaction network that apparently works reasonably well. And so they actually get paid, like full nodes are actually getting paid to be full nodes, right? And that's good because you're going to need hobbyists to be able to maintain like this sort of full copy of the ledger if you want to sort of protect against the centralization, right? And those incentives have to be coming from within the blockchain, because if people start hosting full nodes but having to subsidize them through like their own businesses, then now the security of the cryptocurrency becomes dependent on the various industries that are making money off of it through sort of off-chain means, in a sense, right? Or sort of like non-on-chain means. So that's, I don't know if that all that makes sense, but basically it's important that people are able to maintain the full copy of the node, because that is essentially the contract. The copy of the blockchain is the contract by which you choose to engage in economic sort of commerce with other people. Is there a competition with Bitcoin Cash and Dash? I mean, I think there is. To me, there's no doubt that Bitcoin Cash is at the market cap that it is because it is using the Bitcoin brand, and because of its birth, like its birth was sort of it came out of a core sort of cultural conflict inside of Bitcoin, and so it's a very high profile fork. But technologically speaking, it seems to me Dash is significantly better. We'll see how the emerging consensus of Bitcoin Cash works. I mean, if they can innovate on open source development in distributed networks, great. But I think that they're going to find that they'll end up creating something like Bitcoin Core anyways. That was what I was sort of argued for in my article. So I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I don't want to kind of overwhelm people, but long story short, yeah, I think this is, I think that there's people like transaction fees may sort of stay way higher than let's say in Bitcoin Cash or Dash for a while. And now we're kind of like, now it's time for Bitcoin Core to start delivering on the technology that they've promised. And if in a sense, if Bitcoin Core fails to deliver scale with Lightning networks and something that's actually usable, and something that's actually, you know, becomes a kind of a currency even in a couple of years or something like that, then yeah, the currencies that are taking a different path to scale may become reasonably good hedges. And that's the main reason why I always hold Dash, a significant portion of Dash, is because of this possibility. It's sort of a hedge against the roadmap of Bitcoin.
I think you give a lot of points why Dash might be technologically superior to Bcash. But I think what it boils down to, and why I bring up Dash, well, I bring it up because you're on the show and you talk about it, and people do like to hear about it. But they've been advertising. And what I've been told in the past is they want to make it easy for people to use it. And to do daily transactions, you have to have an easy-to-use cryptocurrency. Right now, it's not easy to use any cryptocurrency, really. So Dash has advertisements on YouTube now, before this show, apparently. They're down in Venezuela. They're all over the world, like having conferences, giving out free Dash. And they're trying to make it easier. So I think where they come into play is their marketing. And if they are to do well, I think it doesn't matter if they're technologically superior to Bcash. I think they might be able to get themselves used for transactions, daily transactions, if people actually want to use cryptocurrencies for these things, by just their marketing, by that aspect. I mean, I don't think it matters which one's technologically superior or not. I think it's which one is actually known by people and which is the easiest one to use. And this is, I'm talking about on the front of coffee transactions, that aspect, because people think that, yeah, you should be able to use a cryptocurrency for daily transactions. It's not one of my biggest concerns in the world, obviously, but this is something that people care about. So that's why I wouldn't be surprised if some Dash people start, poking at Bcash people soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be amazing to see, like, we may see at some point a really heated competition between Bitcoin Cash and Dash, because of a variety of the reasons we've talked about. But we'll certainly see. We'll see what happens. I had another thought, but it's escaping.
Well, crypto, Demedici, what do you think about do you have any altcoin thoughts? I don't know if you know anything. I know Dash isn't your thing or anything like that, but it's a good way to transition into altcoin talk, or if you had anything to say that, because I haven't called on you for a little bit there.
No, yeah, I also like Dash. The main thing that I like about it is the monthly budget, and obviously that gets used for marketing and other purposes, and I think many other cryptocurrencies are beginning to see the success in that kind of governance, and they're moving in that direction. So it's always good to see how the industry develops, and alts. I look at them as experiments. Whether they succeed or not, that's obviously up to many other factors. But it's good because the future is cryptocurrencies, and we don't really know exactly how they're going to shape up. But if we could have all these alts, doing their own kind of crazy thing, we'll be able to see which ones worked and which ones didn't, and how to kind of organize humans in a governance way. Because we've seen this with Bitcoin, that the governance situation is just it's a very difficult, very slow moving process, which there's obviously a lot of benefits, but also a lot of negatives. And so we can see from the alts how governance works, and see if there's any way to apply that to Bitcoin, or just to see how it can be applied to other future projects. Because
do you want to name drop any altcoins? People always get a kick out of that. There's always some fan that thinks it's the greatest thing when one of the guests says their altcoin. So is there anyone that has piqued your interest lately over there?
I like Ethereum. I think Ethereum is going to continue to go up. I mean, it's funny because back when it was like in the $20 range, I thought it was maybe going to pump a little bit, but that's it. I thought it was overvalued, which is funny because now at $300+, I think it's going to go up again. But I think just the fact that it's very well positioned, where it is not only in the market cap but also in the industry. It has a lot of money from people that have made money from it, that are doing their own marketing, and so I think just the fact that it's so well connected and kind of it's a market leader at the moment in the industry, I think that's going to help it a lot. And it's also been kind of very slow moving compared to Bitcoin.
You didn't get too exciting there. You picked the number 2, but hey, man, you're telling the truth. This is what you're seeing out there.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's I'm not really going to talk about others because I think Bitcoin is still dominating at the moment, and so any 20, 10, 30% movement of Bitcoin, it would just hurt alts even more. So it's going to really depend on when Bitcoin kind of starts to calm down. I think most people would be better off just holding their Bitcoin, but yeah, Ethereum is looking good. Dash is looking good. I think a lot of higher cap alts are going to do well. Obviously the timing is going to be key, but the money that has been made and the money that is being made from Bitcoin is going to go into other alts, and we saw that with Bitcoin Cash. I mean, it was just the volume was insane, the amount of money that was going into it, and that was mostly from Bitcoin holders. It was, people are looking to make a quick buck, and I think that's also going to be important to see what Coinbase does about adding other cryptocurrencies, because I think this Bitcoin Cash, I think they are going to add Bitcoin Cash. I don't know when, but I think they're going to start moving into adding other alts, and really Coinbase is the one that's kind of slowing down the alt progression, because everyone goes to Coinbase, and they're only going to buy the 3 assets that are there, and because moving to exchanges is another kind of problem that most people that are new to the industry kind of don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, it is the on-ramp for dollar purchases in the United States, which is a tremendous market. So they are almost like the kingmaker when it comes to the altcoins. Will they sell the Bcash? I don't know. They got to give people their Bcash first that they're entitled to. Benny, what do you think about the marketing aspect here because this is what it boils down to. Some of this is the marketing in cryptocurrency, and if cryptocurrencies should market themselves, and who's good at marketing and who does the marketing. What do you think about all that?
I mean, I think it's very interesting that Dash has a budget for that kind of thing, and I know a lot of people. If they have a problem with Dash, that's one of the problems they have. That a currency is marketing itself. But I also think that's part of the reason that they've enjoyed the success that they have, because they have a budget to get their name out there, right? And that's what they're trying to do. And that reason, I think that Dash could potentially down the road unseat Bitcoin Cash from the position it's trying to take. In fact, when I look at them, I do prefer Dash. Well, I mean, if it wasn't obvious before, I prefer a lot of things to Bitcoin Cash, but I would prefer Dash in place of Bitcoin Cash. And I think there's a case to be made right now when you can't do regular small value transactions on Bitcoin. And if you either want or need to do that with their cryptocurrency, then people should be able to fill that need if they want. And that's why we have other coins. But when I look at it, yeah, I don't know. I definitely prefer Dash. I also, when it becomes more user-friendly, I really, really like Monero. I think that's one of the strongest coins out there right now. Yeah, I don't know. Litecoin is always a good fallback. I'm a bit more conservative when it comes to looking at cryptos outside of Bitcoin. But those are the ones that kind of grab my attention from time to time. Yeah, but the marketing thing is interesting. I know a lot of people say that the product should speak for itself, but when you look at any market, that's usually not the case. You have to get your name out there somehow. Because Bitcoin was first, it has the name recognition, and we can see a lot of projects try and borrow from that to get more to get more users. So I guess time will tell. If we see Dash continue to tick up the crypto market cap, then we'll know potentially that their marketing is doing something right.
Hey, everyone, remember, you got to hold that world reserve cryptocurrency Bitcoin. But I wanted to give the altcoins a little bit of a segment on the show, especially since Juan Galt's in the house. And so there, you got your altcoin fix. Well, actually, we're going to talk about, because remember, the crypto dividends, the forks, they also are altcoins. That's all they are. Bcash is an altcoin when it comes down to it. Now, there was something I forgot to read at the beginning of the show, and I want to hear Ben's thoughts on this, and then the other panelists' thoughts. These are tweets. This SegWit 2x failure will be a good test of the journalism of the journalists covering Bitcoin. And then it says, looking at you, Laura Shin, and all the journalists who presented the S2X farce as if it was a serious threat. Find better clickbait, please, and thank you. All right, so you read the media, you're involved with the semi-mainstream media or the mainstream media, and how they just get on these clickbait things and totally twist everything around, FUD everything around. What do you think this 2x thing is going to be a lesson, or that they're going to finally get it, or is this just a lesson for all of us to just show how useless some of these people like Laura Shin are?
I don't think any lesson will be learned here by anybody in media, because why would they want to learn a lesson? Like, if they come out with an evenly reasoned through article, it doesn't get clicks. It's if an article had been written that, and the title was fork probably not a big deal. Who's gonna read that? People aren't gonna want to click on that. So no, I don't think any lesson will be learned other than by new entrants into the crypto space that are reading these articles. Because the more they read all this FUD and the more they realize that it's exactly that, it's just FUD, the stronger their hands will become. And I know it sucks for anybody new to crypto. They'll read something and then go and make some hasty trade that they never would have made had they not read article X. But that's part of getting into crypto. It's baptism by fire. That's just how it is.
Juan Galt, what do you think about the Forbes type of people? Some of these articles that have been written about ICOs, and then all of a sudden I get people asking me, how do I get Veritasium? And I mean, it's absolute, I guess I'm biasing the question here, but do you think what do you think of it? Has the media been totally exposed by this? How silly some of the mainstream media is when it comes to these complex subjects?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been really reading media articles very much. Like I go to the sources because I was a journalist in Bitcoin for a while, so I kind of know what the sources are, and so I just go for the sources directly. I've been kind of paying attention to Forbes. Forbes does some interesting articles that are like, this is what the mainstream thinks about Bitcoin. Okay, I guess we're making slow progress, but it's at least Forbes is writing, and they have like a dedicated section to crypto. It's weird because it's a new paradigm, right? Like that's the thing is cryptocurrencies are neither corporations nor governments. They're a new thing. They're distributed networks of like currency networks, like governance networks. They're cyberspace sort of machines or something like that, social machines in cyberspace. And so there's you can't really fit a lot of the old ways of looking at the world into crypto. You have to kind of like, get really into crypto and then sort of come out with a different perspective. So I mean, I don't really know. I know that Laura has been getting some slack, and it's pretty funny. Yeah, like journalists should be better. Journalists should be a lot more. It's funny. Like two years ago, when Ethereum came out, there's all this hype about like smart contracts and the future of crypto, and like 2.0 and 3.0 and all this stuff. And I don't really hear that anymore. Like there's no real hype for altcoins lately. I think that the ICO stuff has sort of like freaked people out, at least me and a lot of sort of early sort of idealists, right? And yeah, I mean, did you see the New York Times' description of an ICO?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It was something like an ICO. Imagine that your friend wants to start a casino, and in order to fund the investment of the casino, he sells you chips in the casino. But the thing is, this casino is competing against a bunch of other casinos, and the value of the tokens, of the tokens that they give you to play in the casino, oscillate against the value of other casinos. And on top of that, the guy doesn't really have any experience developing casinos. And if and on top of that, it's not your friend, but it's some dude on the internet, and you have no idea who they are, and thus no capacity to enforce this agreement. And so no capacity to do anything about it when this person at the other side of this casino decides to not build a casino and instead buy a Porsche.
That actually is a pretty good description.
Like, wow, that's a really good description.
Yeah, they're starting off with the word casino. That's all they really had to say. It's a casino. Crypto, what do you think? Any thoughts on the media or anything?
Well, I agree with what both of the guys said, and just to add, I think also most of these media organizations, they've been thinking that crypto was just a joke and that Bitcoin was a scam. They believed what the media believed, which was that Bitcoin was for scammers and for illegal activities. And so now that the price is kind of changing the reality, I think people, and especially the media, is going to start investing in actual journalists that have been in cryptocurrency for a number of years and that understand the technological side. But I think that's still a long ways to go. And the news, obviously, yeah, it's sold with clickbait articles, and so if most people that are reading the news, especially when it comes to crypto. They don't really care about the technical side. They want to know, what should I buy? And I think that's kind of why the journalism is so bad. But I think it's also just a matter of the industry is very new, and it's going to take some time for good journalism to really kind of come out once the funding starts, following those journalists.
Yeah, I think the journalists get bored with just covering Bitcoin, even though that's the big thing. So they play into the 80%'s need to just hear about the latest and greatest thing. So sometimes you'll go to like CoinDesk and they'll be talking about, you want some whack ICO, and why are they even talking about this? What's the point? I think maybe they get, but this isn't about getting bored. You gotta write about what's really going on, and get down to it. But people don't want to think; they want to hear about the flavor of the month. So who knows how this is all going to develop? Someone in the super chat just. Boris, thank you for the $8 Boris. He's always a great guy over there. So we're talking about ICOs, we're talking about media, but we're about to enter the year of the forks here, the year of the crypto dividend. And we've had the B Gold, we had the Bcash, we've talked about those. But and talking about media, the semi-mainstream media, Vice, they're not exactly mainstream. Today, Vice comes out with an article on Motherboard about Bclash, Bclash. So if you haven't heard, people, the on Monday, Bcash forked from its original chain, and they thought the original chain was going to be abandoned, but it wasn't. And now there are these people calling the original chain Bclash or Bclash. I'm going to call it Bclash because it is a clash. So Bclash is really the original Bcash. And so if you own Bcash, you're entitled to this Bclash now. And Vice, just a few hours ago, writes an article about it. So this is something that's going to be taken very seriously now. I think exchanges are going to sell this Bclash, and I don't know how the Bcash people are exactly going to handle it. They probably could twist it around and just say, okay, you're going to get this crypto dividend, whatever. Or they might try to say, this is just a bunch of jerks from Bitcoin trying to do it. And I wouldn't take that approach. I would try to embrace it. But panel members, have you heard about this Bclash thing? What do you think? I think it's Dogecoin to the 10th power here. Because Dogecoin kind of was a joke of an altcoin, but people bought it. And I think the same thing is going to happen with the Bclash, that we are in this time of abundance in cryptocurrency. And if you're a crypto dividend of Bitcoin, or a grandchild crypto dividend of Bitcoin in this case, people are going to buy you just blindly. Benny, what do you think?
My favorite thing about the Bclash is that I'd like Twitter. Watching Twitter react to this has been absolute, it's gold. My favorite thing that I saw was people being like, wait a minute, if people were saying that Bitcoin Cash was Satoshi's vision, then Bclash is actually Satoshi's vision, and they forked away from it. And the other thing that I've really liked is all the Sean Connery memes saying Bclash. The whole thing is hilarious because for Bitcoin to fork and then the fork of Bitcoin to fork, what would be even funnier is if Bitcoin Clash forked into, I don't know what the hell it would be, but oh my God, make this stuff up. It's so amusing to see. And I understand that it happened to Bitcoin itself, but it's just funny to think that, okay, a group of a small portion of Bitcoin users forked off to create this separate chain to live in their own utopia, and that's all good. But then almost instantly there's butting heads over, and it was clearly weren't super happy about not being able to game the system and get those crazy rewards. That's for sure where this is coming from. So I don't know. The whole thing is just hilarious and super amusing for when I look at it.
Yeah, well, people are mining it. It is alive. The old chain lives. It is the crypto dividend of Bcash. Hey, and by the way, people, pound that like button. But I want to remind everyone, I'll have a Saturday show tomorrow. I do post a new show every day, and I'm going to talk about a new crypto dividend that I just heard about called Super Bitcoin. So, and this is serious. No joke. It's called. You're getting a preview right now. I'm going to mention it tomorrow. Super Bitcoin is a legitimate fork that's going to be coming in 2018. So I'll go over all the forks again on tomorrow's show. So I just wanted to put that out there now. What do you think about this, Medici? What do you think about this Bclash and these forks?
I think it's typical crypto. You know, there's always something going on, and I think this is where that rebellious nature comes into play, and that you know, you do one thing and I'll do the opposite. And that's the beauty of decentralization, is that there isn't one entity that can tell you to do something or not, that you just go out and do it yourself. But when it comes to forks, especially on Bitcoin, I think it's going to be a while until there's another big one. I think Bitcoin Cash kind of took the cake for being a big one. But you know, and, you know, I mean, it's so difficult to predict what's going to happen with crypto because things could change radically. And so, you know, I mean, obviously there's going to be more forks because people could make money off of those forks, but I just don't, right now, I don't see what the, you know, I don't see, I mean, once Segwit 2x failed, I don't see if there's going to be another big push for another one, but there'll be a lot of small ones.
Well, it's up to them to make themselves seem bigger. I mean, they have these pre-mines. They can fund some marketing with it, and there is a group that is trying to take the Segwit 2x name. I'm talking to that guy too, who has a Segwit 2, who is a 2M fork that he wants to have all the characteristics of Segwit 2x. And but it's going to be GPU mining. I mean, there's all sorts of ideas. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Can I point out one other thing? Sorry, I just wanted to say how further hilarious it is that people that forked Bitcoin Cash are calling the fork of Bitcoin Cash a scam. Like,
there we go.
Like Craig Wright calling Bitcoin Clash a scam is like the most ironic thing I've ever heard. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just thought that was so funny.
Well, if he said that, yeah, that's incredibly ironic because tries to scam everyone that he's Satoshi. I mean, it's unbelievable. All right, Medici, continue. Sorry.
No, yeah, and I think, I think the success of the fork is it's going to depend on. I mean, the only reason Bitcoin Cash is at this level right now is because it has people that are connected in industry and people that are in industry that has that have the resources to continue to keep it up there. But you know, most other forks, they don't have they don't have those resources, so they're not going to go anywhere. But you know, anything could happen, and we could see something else change. I think the next debate is going to be the, you know, anonymous and the anonymous addition to Bitcoin, and that's going to be interesting to see how that debate kind of goes up in the air. But yeah, I mean, forks, you know, I think we've had enough for now.
Oh, they're going to keep on coming, baby. I know that they're going to keep on coming. You can't stop free money, baby. There's a demand for it. The people want to play with it. I do think that Bclash teaches us, and as did Ethereum Classic, that if you think something's abandoned in cryptocurrency, it's not necessarily abandoned. Juan Galt, what do you think about the Bclash and what's going on?
I think it's hilarious. I mean, it's really the kind of comedy that you can only find in crypto. I mean, and there's some interesting things about it, right? Like there is some potential because the difficulty algorithm, the EDL difficulty algorithm, has like an emergency thing where if there's not enough people mining it, it goes down a lot, which essentially hyperinflates the currency in order to get new miners into it, which then raises the security, right? But the thing is, if it's getting hyperinflated, it means a lot of blocks are being produced. If Bitcoin Classic was to become a longer chain than the Bitcoin Cash, I mean, what's going to happen, right? I haven't looked into this deeply enough because I'm not sure exactly where to look. But I mean, there could be a reorg of the Bitcoin Cash chain towards Bitcoin Classic, and that would be a deadly blow. Like that would hit them really, really hard. And so, of course, they're denouncing it because they know they recognize. I think they obviously recognize the troll, but at the same time, the troll is part of their ideology. So they're just getting, this is what happens when you don't think things through enough.
Well, yeah, but part of what you theorize there, people are talking about that this could cause some major problems. I don't know the technical details. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. I want everyone to get it. I want everyone to get their conclusionary remarks in. But Juan, what were you about to say?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. I want everyone to get their conclusionary remarks in. But first, I just have a question. Anyone on the panel? People have asked me about this. I'm not ready really to talk about it yet. About this Tether Bitfinex situation. Have any of you heard about that?
Yeah. It's been yeah.
Okay. Juan, you talk about it. Then Ben, you talk about it.
Sure. Well, I'm not up to date on the latest sort of commentary. Obviously, Coinbase has been talking about it, and there's this sort of Twitter account called Bitfinex that has been covering it for a long time. It's kind of like a centralized crypto token. Like there's just some company created it and they issued a bunch of Ether USD tokens and they try to maintain a peg to the US dollar. It's supposed to be backed by fiat, but then their bank accounts sort of there's some problem with their bank accounts in Taiwan because the Taiwanese financial system, there's like a crisis. And so it's not clear to me. I don't know exactly if they have bank accounts or what's going on. Coinbase saying that it might not actually be illegal because banks do have the kind of right in certain sort of financial systems to just basically do fractional reserve banking, create tokens that they don't have reserves for. But it could be like it's a systemic threat in a sense, like because a lot of the altcoin exchanges use USD tokens in order to represent the US dollar to trade against it, and so that they don't have to touch fiat directly and thus not have to meet all these sort of compliance requirements. So I mean, it's I haven't looked into it enough. I think it's something that people should sort of look into, not necessarily panic about it, but I think it's important to get maybe Bitfinex to sort of make a public statement about it or try to strain the situation out, because worst case scenario could be a significant panic for probably, like it could be like this is, I mean, it reminds me of the Bitcoin, the Mt. Gox thing to some degree, quite frankly, because it's sort of like a bot creating fake fiat in order to buy a Bitcoin and riding a pump, right? And so if Bitcoin is pumping artificially because of new fake US dollars coming in, that could be a problem. But I would say that it's not exactly clear what's going on. So be cautious and patient and go into some research. I'm sure people will keep getting updates on it.
Yeah, I've heard both sides of the story. I'm not worried at all about it, to tell you the truth. I don't think the numbers numerically it won't have that big of a impact on. If you compare the numbers they're talking about and how much Bitcoin is worth, it really doesn't compare. It's something that should be brought up. Benny, what do you think about it? What have you heard about it?
I just, in general, I think it'll be interesting because this is almost going to be like a litmus test for why it's a bad idea to peg real world items to a digital currency, because who's doing those audits? Who's making sure that the actual the underlying asset is actually there? So, I mean, depending on how this plays out, like it could be a real shit show if this is actually happening. But I mean, it's when the asset itself is purely digital, of course it works because you don't have to trust anybody else. But again, when you're holding a digital asset, it's no more reliable than holding a slip of paper saying that you own gold. Like there can be many people holding a slip of paper to the same piece of gold. And as we're seeing with this, if it plays out the way that it may, potentially many people are holding a USD Tether coin, referring to the same dollar. You know, like it is fractional reserves. So, I mean, again, this is all just assuming that it's what this Twitter account is saying it is, but yeah, I don't know what more to say about it. We'll just have to watch it play out.
Yeah, and again, the Twitter account is Bitfinex. And people don't really know who this guy is. He's anonymous. Some people are saying that he's just a bitter guy that lost, that sold Bitcoin for like $800 and is now just trying to make up excuses why it's gone up to make himself feel better. And that's very possible. But we'll see what comes about with this. I mean, people like to follow this kind of thing, follow it. Benny, you brought up some good points about why you don't want to peg a real thing to a cryptocurrency. Maybe that'll be the lesson out of all
this. There's one other thing there too. I mean, you got to think when you're talking about Tether being used to buy Bitcoin, that speaks to the unsustainability of Tether. It's not necessarily bad when it comes to Bitcoin. It's kind of like when the Federal Reserve prints off a shit ton of US dollars and then those US dollars are used to buy Bitcoin. That's no fault of Bitcoin, the actual sound asset. It's the fault of the currency that's being used to purchase the sound asset. So, I mean, yeah, it would be I guess a little bit of a blow to Bitcoin in the fact that once the house of cards comes tumbling down, there's no more of that manipulated asset to buy Bitcoin. But in the long run, it just kind of solidifies how sound Bitcoin is.
Yes. I wanted to point out to everyone watching that we have one guest in Canada, one in the United States, one in Mexico. So we've got the whole, it's all in line there. One guy's really cold, one guy's really hot, and then one guy's kind of in between. All right, speaking about the guy that's in between, the guy in the US, Medici, I don't think you have any Tether thoughts, but give us, is there anything else you'd like to add? Just things where people could find you. He is linked to below. I do link to everybody's Twitter below. But is there any subject matters that we didn't cover? Anything you want to bring up?
No, I think everyone covered the Tether situation very well, and I wish they were just more transparent about it and they communicated with the community, because in a business aspect, what they're doing, it's just stupid. They should be telling people, okay, these are the rumors and this is the evidence that shows that we're not, just printing out tethers, but this, and now if Tethers was to come crashing down, I think it would explode upwards Bitcoin's price, because people would flood into Bitcoin because there's no other asset on an exchange that would that would be able to hold value from the Tethers. I mean, it would be a complete fiasco, but I think that would really push up Bitcoin price. Now it might help some alts as well, but I think it would help. I mean, it would just be a complete disaster. But
that's I haven't heard that take yet. I'm trying to think it through right now.
Well, so basically what would happen is, like if I had Tethers and I had just sold my Bitcoin, and then, some revelation came out that Tethers actually were printing out money and that it actually didn't back $1, I would freak out and put my Tethers into Bitcoin. I might put in some alts, but it would be Bitcoin. And so now you have all this Tether that had been printed that is now fighting for Bitcoin. And
yeah, man. So when everyone's running out the Tether door, the first place they're running to is Bitcoin before their Tether is completely worthless.
And then exchanges would just be freaking out because they don't know what to do.
Interesting. Yeah. I like this. All right.
So regardless, bullish on Bitcoin.
Okay. So yeah, no other conclusion. You've got the floor if you wanted to say anything else.
No, I think Bitcoin's going to keep pumping, and I think all this money that's coming into the market is great. All these hedge funds, I hope they keep flooding in, and eventually it's going to help the alts market, which has been being pounded by Bitcoin's dominance in the last few weeks.
All right, Juan Galt, conclusionary remarks, things you want to share, events, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would just say people may want to start paying attention to the whole atomic swap thing, the whole decentralized exchange thing. Lightning Network, there's a Lightning Network test done between Bitcoin and Litecoin atomic swap. That's a huge deal. That has the potential to have a high volume of trade between two blockchains in a pure peer-to-peer fashion. And that's, I think, the next level. And it's going to sort of help us sort of get away from some of this risk of decentralized exchanges if something like that goes well. And of course, I'm working with Komodo, and I think they're one of the best options out there for creating a decentralized atomic swap exchange. So I just wanted to put that out there. But that's, I think, some of the most exciting stuff in the space right now. And now that all this drama is behind us, it looks like the next two big topics are going to be probably privacy, and the atomic swaps stuff is I just keep seeing tweets about it. And so that's going to be the next big topics, I think, hopefully.
Yeah, Medici also brought up the privacy. So I think we're definitely hitting that. We're definitely hitting that. All right, Benny, I'm going to let you, you're last. You got the floor, man. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, as per usual, never a dull day in crypto land. As heart-wrenching, or I guess as heart attack inducing as some moments can be in crypto, in the end, this is exactly what everybody signed up for. When you have permissionless innovation, people are going to innovate, and some of those innovations you will love and some of them you will hate, but nobody can tell anybody else don't do that. And this is exactly what we're seeing all throughout the space. If somebody wants a coin that works a certain way, make it. So it's fine. Let everybody battle it out. And it doesn't even really need to be a battle. Like, let people use whatever the hell they want. I don't see Bitcoin going away anytime soon. And I see it becoming more and more useful. But the first thing that needs to be established is a solid store of value and the censorship resistance and the decentralization. That's why I got into Bitcoin. And, when these secondary layers allow me to buy a coffee, fantastic. But until then, I don't mind if people use Dash or something like that for their cheaper transactions. More power to you. Go crypto.
Golden hold, people. Well, thank you, guests, and thank you, viewers. Pound that like button, subscribe to this channel, and check out the link section below to see all these guys' information. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. We do this show every Friday. It's This Week in Bitcoin. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about Bitcoin, crypto dividends, super Bitcoin, all sorts of craziness. So bye-bye, everyone. Pound that like button. See you later. Thank you all.